とんびりやなかったかいたずらやったらくすぐりの刑やで。
Hello and welcome to this almost no-nonsense guide to Yuel. We'll be covering just about everything I can think of for this character, from basic buttons, to skills, to combos, and more complicated things like stance setups. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. First of all, Yuel is a rushdown style character. A character who wants to get into their opponent's face before they have time to enforce their own game plan, and from there, overwhelm the opponent with your superior button. And compared to the rest of the cast, Yuel's buttons are pretty good, so let's do a quick breakdown. Yuel's light buttons are fairly standard. A 5-frame close light, a 6-frame far light, and a 6-frame Touhou. One noticeable thing about Yuel's far light is that it hits low. However, it's also shorter in comparison to other existing far Ls. So be careful about your spacing and make sure you know when to use far light and 2M. Moving on to our mediums. Close M is 6-frame startup and one of her easiest combo starters. Despite how it looks, it does not hit behind her, unfortunately. Her far M is going to be the button you use the most on this character. It's a bit on the slow side at 9-frame startup and -7 on block, making it particularly unsafe. However, it's a 2-hit move that advances forward, making it really easy to confirm and cancel into specials. Lastly, we have 2M, a far-reaching move that doesn't hit low despite its looks. 7-frame startup and -3 on block, making it completely safe even from throws. Good to test the waters in neutral with. If far medium is Yuel's best button, then close heavy is second best. It's a fast move with only 8 frames of startup and can be used to continue a combo from close light, regardless of the kind of hit you get. Far heavy is Yuel's counterpoke tool. It has good range without extending her hurtbox too far out, but other than that, not much to say about it. Lastly, her 2H. A tad short, but it still puts in work. Yuel gets quite a bit off of anti-air hits, as we'll see later.
Excellent.
One note about it is that it's another 2-hit attack. Both of the attacks are each able to trigger the counter hit flash. Next is Yuel's 2U. It's an actual low sweep, so its usefulness is trying to catch people walking away from you. Just like 2M, it's 7 frames of startup, however, this one's -12 on block. So make sure you cancel it into either 236L or 214X to either make it safe or to get out of there. Alternatively, you can also use 22U to confirm or make it safe. Next is the dash normals. 6XL is pretty standard, 8-frame startup and +2 on block. The best pressure tool in Grand Blue. On Yuel, it particularly synergizes with her other forward advancing moves like far M to keep up pressure, even when you get the hit from far away. .6M is also pretty standard, but it's also really good for Yuel considering it's one of her longest reaching normals. -8 on block, however, it can be made safe with spacing. On counter hit, you can use a very slightly delayed stance. Hop into 2M to set up a safe low. We'll talk more about stance 2M setups later. 6H is also pretty standard. It's a big hit that forces a crouch and sets up for the biggest damaging combos. Unusable in neutral for the most part, so it's best used to punish long recovery moves like DPs, and is used in some niche combos.
Marvelous. Excellent.
For her air normals, JL will probably be her best one. Unlike all the other air normals, it's a single hit and decently big, so it's easier to both connect and convert off of it. Since it's an air light, however, it has extremely low priority. Don't expect to win class situations, you'll have to hit the enemy before they hit you. Her JM is a slightly longer 2-hit air normal. It's mostly horizontal reaching and not that active, making it mostly useless. JH is her cross-up button. Another 2-hit air normal, the first reaching slightly forward and under, while the second hits a wider arc below her. An important thing to note on both JM and JH, only the first hit that connects on both of them will be considered an overhead. And lastly, her JU is a spinning move that keeps hitting on its way down. On block, it's -2 to -4, and this becomes even more -4 to -7 if you cross up mid-spin. The opponent won't have to switch their block either if you do. And even on hit, it will never confirm into anything, and is not even considered an overhead. Its benefit, however, is that it slightly stalls your air momentum, so it can be used to bait out 2Hs, or more likely, save yourself from them. Yuel's 236X series is really straightforward. A forward advancing multi-hit kick that leaves her in the opponent's face. Light and ultimate versions are safe, being -3 and -4 on block respectively, although note that the ult version can be throw punished if blocked in the corner. Medium and heavy versions are for damage and combos specifically. They are both super minus on block. H and U versions will be your only wall bounce tools, period.
Great.
623 is a series of DPs, and they're pretty good ones. Light has no invuln, but is safe to use on aerial opponents even on block. On hit, it will always cause a knockdown. Medium is your primary DP, as well as your main combo ender. Starting up at 9 frames, it is ridiculously punishable on block. You will blow up if it gets blocked, so be careful.
Excellent.
H version won't see too much use, as it actually has slower startup than the M version. Its only merit is that it's air unblockable, so use against enemies who like to air stall often to catch 2Hs. And U version is going to be safe jabs and some other meaty setups at the cost of 50 meter, and will give you a hard knockdown as all U skills do.
Great. Great. Great.
2-2 is a single hit attack that hits all around Yuel. This is arguably her most important skill in all situations, as I'll explain later. 2-2L is a slightly delayed attack that is 0 on block. However, when it's blocked, it puts Yuel at the perfect spacing to throw out 2M, as the great majority of lights can't reach her, and thus you'll win the interaction most of the time. This move is also a frame trap, but only after the full triple attack or off of any hit of close heavy. Any other time, and your opponent will be able to interrupt you unless spaced well. Touhou is a much slower version of Duel, but it also is a lot more advantageous on block. Your opponents can mash this button no matter what, but if they respect you, it's +5 on block, letting you start your turn with basically anything you want. 2-2H is next. It's +4 on block, but almost as fast as 2-2L. It also travels a bit farther forward than 2-2L. It's almost a frame trap move, but only off of close heavy. I say almost because even in that situation, your opponent can still throw you out of it. The big thing with this move is that it allows you to combo on crouchers off of close heavy, as well as being your best combo extender off of 2Hs.
Excellent.
Lastly, 2-2U is Yuel's easiest combo extender and her best ultimate skill in general. Starting up as fast as 9 frames and being +6 on block with more active frames than the other versions, allowing you to pick up and continue combos from basically anywhere with enough hit stun too to link in the close heavy, or even stance 2H, grounded or airborne. It's also useful for pressure, as it allows you to restart your block string, and the colorful animation plus the blue effect from all U skills somewhat hides the stance change indicator, sometimes allowing for cheesy mix-ups. The last skill on this list is 214, her backflip. This skill lets Yuel get out of most situations and either jump back in immediately or reset back to neutral. By pressing 5U during the backflip portion of this animation, you can skip the second part and instead cancel with stance. 214L is a backflip that jumps back in with a jumping slash. If you don't feel like burning the cooldown of the H version of the skill, this is the one you'll default to. The actual slash is a mid that is +1 on block and +5 on hit, letting you confirm with close light if you're close enough, or simply reset pressure. The backflip portion of this, as well as the M version, Both have invincibility starting at frame 3. However, the M version comes out with a low sweeping slash that knocks down the opponent on hit, but can be comboed from with close light or close M if spaced well, or other moves like close heavy on counter hit.
Great. Excellent.
But it's -7 on block, making it extremely unsafe to use. In fact, you basically never want to use this move. Then, we have the cream of the crop. 214H is invincible frame 1. That's right, Yuel has 2 frame 1 invulnerable moves. The jump in slash this time around is +2 on block and +6 on hit, making it even better for confirms and pressure. If you press M during the backflip portion of this animation, you'll get the low sweep rather than the jump in slash. This is the move you'll be using over 214M every single time. It's much less punishable being -4 on block, which means that if you swipe point blank, your opponent can get a throw punish guaranteed, but with spacing, it becomes safe, and at the max range, can even become +1, although it's difficult to consistently get this. One general piece of advice with this move is that if used too frequently, it gets predictable, and your opponent can punish the backflip by chasing you down with a 6XL.
Great.
It comes out faster than you can finish your backflip animation, even if you cancel in the stance. And then we have 214U. This move skips the invulnerable backflip portion of the attack and opts to just jump in on your opponent with a big slash. On block, this move is +4, and like all ultimate moves, causes a hard knockdown, but it can be comboed from with a close heavy or even 2-2U.
Excellent.
One thing to note is that this move isn't really a viable throw bait option since it doesn't leave the ground right away. It can jump over low projectiles and sweeps, but the timing can make it difficult to react with.
Great.
This move also only travels about 3/4 of the screen and is not fast enough to make it an effective neutral skip tool. Yuel's SBA and SSBA aren't too much to talk about. Yuel's SBA dashes up before striking the enemy, traveling about 2/3 of the screen. It has 14 frames of full invulnerability, but after that becomes vulnerable. One neat thing about it is that if it hits, it will always trigger the cinematic and drain the enemy's brave point, unlike some other strike type SBAs. Her SSBA is a lot more limited horizontally, but it has a really tall hitbox, making it a sort of anti-air option. This limited range, however, makes it difficult to combo into from full triple attack, and is much more consistent to use after the second attack on an airborne opponent mid-screen.
Excellent.
The last part of Yuel's kit I want to talk about is her stance. Arguably the most complicated part of this otherwise extremely simple character. Pressing 5U will put Yuel in the stance, which does a few things to her. Firstly, it prevents her from walking or dashing. Her only form of forward or backwards movement is from the hops that she now has that replaces her dash movements. She has forward and backwards hops that travel fixed distances and can be used in succession pretty quickly to cover space fast. Yuel also loses the ability to block while in stance. Pressing the guard button while in stance will cause her to spot dodge instead. Pressing 5U again will let you exit stance. Now onto the more interesting parts. As of patch 1.5, pressing the skill button while in stance will put her in a parry stance that's active from frames 1 through 10, with 25 more frames of recovery. If an enemy hits you with any strike attack within those first 10 frames, including lows or overheads, Yuel counters. She can't do anything from those counters except in really niche situations. However, if you press 5U during the counter frames, you can exit stance while skipping the unstance animation. This counter stance cannot counter projectiles, certain multi-hit invincible moves, or command grabs. All of Yuel's normals also get a change while she's in stance. Stance 5L is a 5-frame jab that's 0 on block and can chain into another stance 5L once, or into stance 2L. Stance 2L itself isn't that special. It's an 8-frame start-up button that's -3 on block. You can combo from it, but only on counter hit.
Great.
Her two mediums are uniquely interesting buttons. Stance 5M is a 14-frame unreactable overhead, and her primary mix-up button to stop the opponent from just holding down back all game. Unfortunately, this button is pretty high risk, low reward, as it's -6 on block, letting enemies get punished if they do block. And then when you do hit it, you get no combo from it, unless you get a counter hit.
Excellent.
However, it's still a powerful mental stack tool and should be used. Starting from frame 7, this move is invulnerable to throws, and at frame 10, invulnerable to lows as well. Stance 2M is Yuel's best button in stance, by far. You will be using this button a lot. Before I move on to our stance heavy options, one note for all of Yuel's stance normals thus far is that you can input 5U during any of the normal animations to exit stance and skip the animation of unstancing, similar to what I mentioned during Yuel's counter. This has many applications ranging from sneakily switching to unstance for more versatile normals, or even get a fast throw in there, or granting you the ability to confirm from those stance normals into your regular ones, or even simply to regain your ability to block after ending your pressure on a stance normal. Moving on, for Yuel stance heavies, 5H lunges her forward with a big hit that is generally -4 on block. However, with spacing, you can get the move to become plus on block, and it's something Yuel will do fairly often as it's one of her core pressure tools, so learning the spacing is very important. Luckily, it's also very easy. After using 214X, if you cancel the stance early, it sets you up to become perfectly plus on block with an uncharged good end. On hit, it'll leave the opponent standing unless you hit the opponent from point blank, at which point it will knock the enemy down. It'll also cause a knockdown on counter hit, and with a far enough hit, you can actually follow that up with a 2M.
Great.
You can also charge good end for an even bigger dash. Again, spacing with this move is important, however, on hit will always cause a knockdown, and it is also able to wall bounce for possible follow-up.
Excellent.
One thing to note about Gurren is that both it and stance 2H will automatically take Yuel out of stance when used. Speaking of, stance 2H, Yugetsu, is another one of Yuel's anti-airs. This one hits notably higher than her standard 2H option. It leaves her on whopping -13 on block, so only use it in combos and anti-air situations. But because of its long hit stun, it's able to juggle opponents really easily. After that, it becomes a matter of height and distance to determine if you can go for a close M, far M,
Great.
close heavy, or even 2H.
Excellent.
And lastly, Yuel's throw-in stance also gets changed. While in stance, pressing the throw button will have Yuel do a hop forward before doing the standard throw. This hop happens no matter how close or far you are from your opponent and can telegraph your throw in stance, as well as just generally making it slower. However, you can bait a throw tech with this by manually hopping forward and pressing stance 5M for a punish. And if they're slow to throw tech, potentially a counter hit. Two notes about stance. First is that you can cancel any normal into stance. However, in order to cancel into stance from those normals, they must land. You cannot cancel into stance from a whiffed normal. Canceling into stance slightly alters the frame advantage from those normals, making you minus in all cases, but it's still very useful for setting up mix where you might otherwise cancel into a safe ending special. The second is that all of Yuel's stance normals deal chip damage, making them useful for guess for game scenarios where you have the advantage and don't want to try anything too risky or committal.
Perfect. Great. Perfect.
手強い
From here on out,
Yo,
I'll be doing more show rather than tell. First, here's a few basic block strings, and after that, combos and setups. Then, it'll become up to you to learn, apply, and mix up these options to fit your own style of UL.
そこや吸い込めるしょしょいくでそこやはあはあさあはいそれくしばりはいたはあよしそうてそれよしそらそはっとやまだまだ準備よしそこや吸い込めるでそれ準備はいやってそれこそれだふんしばり吸い込めるやってこうそこや吸い込めるボブで
Excellent.
そう吸い込める受けてみどないやどうや舞うでそこやはっよう見てて
Excellent.
はい朝の前めっちゃ舞うでそりゃそうはっどや行くでどう攻めよっか楽しくなおい舞うでふんしばり吸い込めるボブで
Excellent.
楽しんでこなやっとええや強火でいくでか舞うでそこやってボブで
Excellent.
そうはっどやめっちゃ舞うでどないやってそれやってんこ
Excellent.
それそ吸い込める受けてみそこやこれやふんしばりこれは道の舞は刺激的やで朝の舞リニエ改めはあどうやっ
Marvelous.
た楽しんでこなそこやはっどやこれやそこやすが海がためはあこれははいキュウリを滅ぼす冷たきもの受けてみさすがこれでどうや
Marvelous.
ふんしばりこれはそうはいどやよう見てて
Excellent.
そこやが遊月どないやこれははあはいい
Excellent.
どないや狐火花嵐舞うではいよう見てて
Marvelous.
頑張ろなはあまだまだ追撃しちゃったそれ狐火そこやはいどや朝の舞それどがためそれそれといくでとしまやうまく舞えたわよう見ててやどう攻めよっか
Hi, I just want to pop back in here to talk about this move specifically. This is Yuel's #1 button on block, bar none. It's 10 frames of startup, but +2 on block, and pretty active too. So when timed correctly, it can be one of the best meaties in the game, as it gets even more plus the later it hits. Up to +7, which is more than enough to be safe even against UDPs. Something almost exclusive to UL. Here are a few examples of stance 2M setups. Note which ones are and aren't safe against UDP.
やってんこ
Great.
そこや吸い込めるやってんこはいはいどや
Excellent.
調子よっけないおっと
Let's go gambling! Aw, dang it! Aw, dang it! Aw, dang it! Aw, dang it! Aw, dang it!